Hey everybody, it's Andy Kushner, host of The Wedding Biz, brought to you by Party Slate, our title sponsor, the first website designed specifically for event professionals and venues. On The Wedding Biz, I conduct in-depth and revealing interviews of icons and those who I feel are the next generation icons of the weddings and event industry. And this is all to provide you with education and inspiration for any entrepreneur, but especially event industry professionals and consumers. So today's guest, very excited to announce, is Sofia Crokos, planner and designer based in New York City, who has also partnered with the Heritage Collection behind 4 exclusive private properties in Europe. Sofia gets really vulnerable and shares who she is and what's important to her. And so I think you're going to get a lot out of this episode. So enjoy my conversation with Sofia Crokos. Sofia, it is so good to see you. And I guess we both realize we met many, I'm just going to say umpteen years ago. I'll just leave it at that.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
So it's good to see you here in New York and have you on the show like this. So, it's interesting when I was learning some about you, of course, we're going to really get into it in a minute. I realized that you grew up, you're Greek and you grew up in Brooklyn.
That's right.
And I'm just trying to picture, I don't want to be stereotypical and say the kind of family with the loudness and the eating and the food.
Those are Italians, by the way. Those aren't Greeks. But
listen, I'm Jewish and Jewish.
And Jewish, yeah.
But what was it like for you, growing up in a Greek family in Brooklyn in those days? Not that it was that long ago.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm still a Brooklyn girl at heart, even though I might not live in Brooklyn. Yeah. What was it like? It was fun. It was festive. It was never a dull moment.
Okay, so I'm right.
So you're pretty right. Grew up in a family that entertained a lot, especially around holiday time. So, so that felt so natural for me to kind of dive in and be part of that chaos, if you will. And cooking was such a big factor, huge element in my family. Greek cooking was, my grandmother, my mom, my dad was an amazing cook and still is. So yeah, it was lots of fun. I have myself and 3 other siblings. So family's tight. Family was super important growing up, and it still is today.
Well, so what did you do with that? Like, how did that manifest later, like in high school, getting ready to go to school, your interest in entertaining and food? How did that come about?
Well, creativity was really my soul. Like it spoke to my soul to be a creative person, because I knew I was not going to be, a super analytical, finance kind of, gal. So fashion was really my first true love. Oh. And so I went to FIT here in the city.
Fashion Institute of Technology, yep. Yes.
And actually, prior FIT, I did go to Hofstra University for a hot minute because my dad did really try to push me into the business arena, because he thought, how is fashion going to, feed you tomorrow growing up? And he didn't really understand that concept. He thought business was the only really way to go. But I knew down deep in my soul that there was no way I could be sitting through economics or any, hardcore business classes and really not run to fashion, because that's what really spoke to me at the time.
What aspect of fashion, like when you went to school, what was it that you were majoring in or studying with a concentration?
It was fashion buying and merchandising. That was the course or the degree I got basically after 4 years. And at heart, I knew I was a designer, but I could not put paper and pencil together and actually sketch, because I was a frustrated designer. It was not happening. I could not sketch anything if you paid me. And so I went into basically the business side, which was, merchandising and marketing and sales, and did 7 years of that before I found my next love.
Didn't you also spend a semester sometime in Paris at some point?
I did.
When you were in school?
It was a whole summer semester in France and in Italy. And that's
what part of Italy? Like Milan?
It was Milan, It was Florence, Venice, and Rome.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So it was all the beautiful cities of Italy and, of course, Paris. And I knew then that Europe was so embedded in me that somehow I would have to come back and visit these countries over and over, which I have been very lucky to.
What do you feel that you learned from your experience at FIT and that semester abroad, that you bring into your career and your life now? What came from that?
Well, I mean, being a fashionable person myself, I do love fashion and I do appreciate everything beautiful because I love to surround myself in beauty. So segueing into, the event world was very easy for me because here I am creating beauty for someone, or for a couple for that matter. So it was a very easy transition. It wasn't like I was going from fashion to, I don't know, building dining tables or something. So for me, that transition was very easy to go into. And I applied that a lot into my design, concepts with my clients.
But how did you make that transition? I'm just trying to imagine you're in your, very low 20s, right? When you get out of the fashion or mid 20s, how do you make that transition? Like literally, what did you do?
So I basically planned my own wedding. I am now in my second marriage, but it's all good.
Okay. Well, that's more experience.
More experience, exactly.
That's how I look at it.
So I planned my first wedding and it really just spoke volume to me, where I said, wow, I can do this. This is as hard as it was. I'm not going to say that planning was a walk in the park, but as hard as it was, I just thought this is something that's speaking to me. I was tired of kind of being in the fashion business, even though I was only in it for 7 years. I wanted to be my own boss. I really wanted to be my own entity. And I thought, you know what? This is the time to do it because I got my feet wet with doing the first wedding. And I thought, listen, Andy, we're going to be raw here. So
let's go. I love it.
So it was easy. I got it. And I thought, you know what? I think I could do this. And I want to do it for the luxury market. I want to do it for that high end sort of client that really appreciates what I'm going to bring to the table. And I also wanted to do it where I didn't want to do, 30 weddings a year. That was not what my intention was. So I quit my job.
Just
at
cold
Calvin
turkey?
Klein. Yeah, I just went in one day and I said to my boss, I'm done. And he was not happy, but I said, I need to step back and I need to really do what I feel I'm meant to do. And so it took about 8 months of researching, talking to basically my vendors that I used for my wedding at the time. Oh. And they thought I was crazy going into this business. But I said, I don't care. I'm going to do it. And I met a woman who was my mentor. Wendy was this sparky 60-something-year-old woman who was beyond amazing. And she kind of took me under her wings and she said, let me show you. Let me come on over to the apartment.
Was she like a planner or a designer?
She was a planner for primarily like a lot of the Upper East Side socialites.
Okay.
And she said, I love your spunk and your energy. And so she said, I want you to come to my apartment and I want to sit and have a chat with you. And so we did. And so she literally, Andy, opened up her file, like her Pandora box was like, here we go. I'm going to show you how to do a timeline. Here is my contract. Here are my top vendors.
Wow.
And I said, oh my God, I have really won the lottery here. This was such a huge opening for me. And I think it was a month later where she said, are you ready for your first job? Because I can't take this job on.
Wow.
And I said, what? What does that mean? And she said, well, are you ready? Because you're like this little bug that's been buzzing. She says, and I know you're ready to do this. And she says, it's a tented wedding affair. And I go, what's a tented wedding affair? I had no idea what that meant.
Yeah.
And I quickly learned that, we had to bring in, tent and flooring and generator and all that jazz because I had no experience in doing this, even though I had experience of creating beautiful settings growing up and, even in my, older adult age where I was basically hosting dinner parties and all that came very natural to me, but I didn't know how to do this tented wedding affair.
Yeah.
But she guided me and that was it. That just literally, one other floral designer that was at that wedding said, I really like you, your work ethic, the way you're just on top of things. I'd like to introduce you to Jim Lair. Do you know who Jim Lair is, Sophia? I said, no, who is he? PBS NewsHour. I go, oh my God. And sure enough, it led from there where his daughter was getting married and then everything else was referral based. And also Wendy was also gracious to keep feeding me beautiful clients until I really clipped my wings and went off on my own.
Oh my, it almost sounds too easy. I mean, I know obviously you had to do a ton of work to be able to deliver and for people to see what you can do and to execute it. But it's interesting, Sofia, you talk about mentors. I know there's people out there who don't want help. They don't want to do it on their own. I believe heavily in mentors. I've had mentors since the age of 18, and I think it's a gift to be able to have somebody like that who believes in you, believes in your potential, and will sit there and help, kind of guide you along the path.
Mm-hmm. I am a huge believer in that as well, Andy. And that's why also I've mentored other people in my life, whether from a personal perspective or even a business one. Mm-hmm. And many colleagues of mine in this industry and friends outside of this industry have told me, you need to start like a mentorship program because you're so good at this. You're so patient. You give such sound advice. And I just love to hear what you have to say. It gives me joy because I think when you're helping someone, you're also helping yourself.
Oh, absolutely.
So there's a healing sort of element that you get from that. And I love that.
What do you feel that it's healing for you?
I think it really, for me, it gives me a sense of helping and a sense of peace. There's this peace that I get from healing. And I love to feel at peace. Who doesn't want to feel at peace at the end of the day? After this whole crazy, work day that we all put in and so forth, at the end of the day, we want to feel that we did our best that we could have done for the day today. And at the end, we would just want to feel at peace.
Well, you're also talking about connecting with people.
Right.
Right. And the heart of what we do is so much about that, right? Connecting with our clients and with our team members. And there was some interview you did where you actually talk about this, and you said, quote unquote, you said, I love the connection that I make with each of my clients. I get into the psyche of the client to understand what it is that they really want and how much can we extract from them so that it can make our jobs even easier. Mm-hmm. The most important thing is to personalize their story. Mm-hmm. Can you tell me more about that?
Yes. So I live by connection. Connection for me, especially even more so in the last 5 years of my life. If there's no connection, there's no doing for me. And when I sit with a client, or even when we're initially being interviewed even, I always love to start my sort of opening when I'm sitting with a client. How can I be of service? And they almost give me like a look like, wow, I didn't expect that, and I'm a great listener. So I want to listen to what it is that the clients, are coming to the table for or with. And I want to see how we can deliver what it is that they're asking. Sometimes they don't know, sometimes we have to get into that psyche.
Yes.
We have to get in and dig a little deeper and give them a little time, because some people just aren't, we're not all open books, It's a process. So we love that process. We love getting to know them. We love sort of introducing things to them, whether it's, on a design board, whether it's taking them to a venue that maybe they saw online, but they weren't expecting it to be as fabulous or as whatever. So connection for me is huge. And when there's connection, there's result. And when there's result, that brings me and my staff or all my creative partners, joy to know that wow, we're on the same page. Alignment is also part of that.
What do you mean by alignment?
Alignment is, for me, you attract what you are, right? Or who you
are.
Or
what you put out,
what you put out.
Yeah.
And I remember there was a planner at a moment when I was talking to her, I won't mention her name. And she said, I don't understand. Why do you get all these, really great clients? And I get these nightmare clients. I wanted to tell her, well, have you looked at yourself lately?
Right.
And not because I wanted to be, condescending, but I was sort of processing it in my head. And I thought, well, I understand why, because I saw what she was sort of going through or had been going through in her life. And so whatever it is that you're experiencing, whatever you're putting out is really what's coming, towards you. That saying that they say, oh, opposites attract, right? And that's supposed to be a good thing. I don't believe in that 100% anymore. I believe in alignment. I believe when you have someone that's sort of kind of riding that same path like you are, it makes for the process to be easier. I don't mind challenges, and God knows I've had many of them and, working in this industry, and it's only made me stronger. And that's okay. However, I think going forward, because now I'm 21 plus years into the business that I want my next 4 or 5 years, whatever more I'm going to give for this, to be really like smooth.
Oh God, I'm right there with you. I'm so with you on that. Oh yeah.
So that's why I say alignment, because I think that's important.
Well, what is I'm wondering about your process with a client, like how it is, if you're able to put it into words, how you help facilitate that connection. Like for me, Sophia, it's immediately I as if I'm already friends with a brand new client or even a prospective client. Immediately I'm laughing, I'm talking to them as if I know them. It loosens them up. That's my way. And then I take it further. How do you facilitate that? How do you open up the lines of communication and connection?
I think you and I are very similar because I think laughter is key. I love to laugh. And I'm a joker most of the times when I'm working with my clients because I want to break that ice because it could get very, tense. And so with me, whether it's, someone from my staff that'll answer that first phone call that comes in that, is that potential client, or if it's the client that we finally land, it's approaching them with kindness, I think is also another factor that I have taught, not that I've taught, but a lot of my girls on my staff have loads of kindness. Otherwise, you're not part of my staff because
it's all in the approach.
It really is in the approach. And maybe I'm sounding a little too kumbaya-ish, but you know what? I'm honestly...
No, because I've seen it all.
Yeah.
And it's not that not everyone has that approach, believe it or not.
Right.
Yeah.
I do. I believe if you treat someone with kindness, you're going to get it back.
Yeah.
And when you're treated even like SHIT sometimes from somebody, you turn it around and you don't act like them because you actually will bring them to your level versus you going to theirs.
I totally agree.
So the laughter part in getting to know them is really important to me as well, because that almost forms like a friendship. And they need that. They need someone, especially if sometimes, the mother is not present in the planning department and the bride's off on her own, or sometimes the groom might be too tense because he's thinking like, oh my God, how much is this going to cost me if it happens to be, the groom paying for it. So there is a way. And I kind of sit back a little bit and I study it for a little bit versus kind of going in too fast.
But what do you mean by that when you say you study it?
I study the dynamics, like sort of the psyche of the individual or individuals to get, like the couple together, just to see like
what are the dynamics?
And,
visually the cues, all of it.
Right. Like who's more of like the driver here? Is it she or is it he? Who needs to really be broken down a little bit with some laughter and some pushing here, so this way they can sort of ease up a little bit.
I like that. I get it.
So it's a studying thing, and even while I'm being interviewed for the first time, I know I'm sitting there and I'm already like sketching them out. Like I already know what they're almost all about. But again, more of that comes about when you're in the planning process, because you see a lot during the planning process. You see the good, the bad, and the ugly come out sometimes,
Oh yeah. We all know about the, sometimes we have to be therapists, don't we?
Yes.
Or maybe all the time.
I think all the time.
In some respect.
Yeah, in some respect. Right. Exactly.
If you are an event planner, venue, caterer, photographer, or any other industry professional, you really should be aware of and using the Party Slate marketing platform. And I want to say, I only work with sponsors whose product or service I'm either fully aware of or even use myself. So you can create a free profile that can act as a photo-rich portfolio, or Party Slate has additional membership options available. And if you're planning or involved with an event, from weddings to fundraisers to baby showers and really everything in between, you should use Party Slate to get inspired. Save your favorite ideas and contact top professionals to help create your dream event. New photos from real events are uploaded to Party Slate daily, and their editorial team publishes articles that highlight the latest trends and planning tips. It is a really great site. You've got to visit partyslate.com to get started. And again, that's partyslate.com. Maybe you could tell me a story of a favorite event, wedding or not, from the beginning, where you meet the client and you're kind of sussing out, you're getting the connection, you're sussing out the interests and the vision and what you do to manifest it with a party. Can you think of any in particular?
Well, it's funny. The one, and not to name drop because I don't like to name drop. And a lot of my colleagues always tell me like, you should be talking more about your clients, and who you've done and whatever, because I didn't know you did this person's wedding or that person's. And I said, well, it's okay. Not everyone needs to know everything. However, one client that does stand out, and because of just, and maybe this is not directly, answering your question, but it was Robert Downey's wedding.
Oh, you did Robert's? Wow.
I did Robert Downey's wedding. It's going to be 15 years ago. It will be 15 years rather, at the end of August. And he and I actually share the same wedding anniversary for the second marriage that I have now.
The second one, okay.
Not the first one. That one's done and over. Anyway, so I was challenged 4 days before the wedding where I had to move the venue.
Oh my, 4 days before? What
4
happened?
days.
Why?
Well, I'm not going to obviously disclose
a
lot because I did have an NDA I had to sign. However, there was some conflict on that property and it had nothing to do with us. It had to do between client and person that owned the property.
Okay.
And I got that call from him and he said, Crokos, you got to pull that magic rabbit out of your hat because we got to get it off. We got to get it off that property.
Oh, no. And of all people with a major celebrity.
Yeah. So this is where I think the first time, and not really the first time, but it's probably been a few times where I really had to pause and not freak out.
Yeah.
Because not only obviously was it him, but it was also my name on the line, let alone every, vendor that was part of it.
Sophia, I can't imagine this. I'm sweating. I wasn't even there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and it was the week of the classic horse show in the Hamptons where every home is being rented.
Yeah.
And anyway, so long story short, that pausing did me well because I put all the ducks in line and I had to say, okay, Sophia, don't freak out. It's all going to work out because it always does.
Can I stop right there?
Sure. That
right there took me a lifetime to get to be able to just assume that it's going to work out. And better yet, why not even look at it? I've mentioned this on the show all the time. There's a book by Ryan Holiday. It's called The Obstacle is the Way, where we embrace it and assume it's going to take us to a better place. I mean, that's a whole nother level, right?
That is another level.
But for you, given the circumstances you just described, to be able to stay calm and just say, okay, hold on, I'm going to figure it out.
Yep.
That's huge.
Yep. And that was 15 years ago for me to do that pausing. And I think I've been doing more pausing lately, but I think I was doing the pausing even back then.
Wow.
And not losing my coolness. I've never lost my cool ever.
I wish I could say that.
I never.
I used to wear it on my sleeve.
No. Yeah. I mean, have I expressed sort of like, oh my God, this is happening and, whatever, but never have my clients, never have my vendors ever seen me lose my cool.
Or your own team, right?
Or my own team.
They're the ones who really have to keep it together.
Right. And have I had a moment where I've gone to a corner and actually cried? Yes, I have. I mean, I am human, but no, I've never had. And so I think that experience taught me that, okay, you are going to make this work and you're going to tap into so many of your connections because again, it's connections. And I've always had the connections, even from a young age. I was always the connector. So I tapped in and I luckily found a home that was available, the only home because this woman was going off to Russia for a week. And it was 5 acres.
To hold the wedding in, you're saying. And the backyard.
To basically move the wedding from venue A to venue B, basically. And it happened to be where the space, really was literally like as if God said, I'm going to give you that 5 acres because I know you need it. And so you're going to get, and you're going to get your permits all stamped, ready to go.
You had to do that too in 4 days?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah. And, and sometimes depending on which part of the Hampton, East Hampton happens to be the most strict and hardest to have to go by, but it all worked out. And I actually gave myself an award that summer as best wedding planner in the world because it was definitely challenging and my heart was palpitating. However, it all worked out. And it was basically I believe, the venue that we had to be on. So, it's that famous, I think, Rumi quote, like, you are where you're supposed to be. So I really believe that we were meant to be on that.
This to me is a perfect transition. I know that I don't know the details of it, but you took some time to disconnect from the business. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah.
I think we all sometimes think about something like that. And how did that go for you? What happened?
So, 2018 was a very overwhelming year, lots of great jobs and also a personal matter that was going on in my life. And I decided that January of 2019 that I was going to start giving a little bit more responsibility to my staff and not sort of be the head leader. And so I said, Sophia, got to look at yourself in the mirror here, because this is all great and dandy, great event planning business. You've traveled the world. You've met some fascinating people. You're a creator at heart and everything else that goes along with it, but you need a timeout. And maybe you're just going to do 1 or 2 jobs, whatever is going to speak to you at most, to handle. And then you're going to basically take that sort of moment to disconnect so I can reconnect. And it was scary, because I had been going straight on, for so many years. And even though I was taking little breaks here and there, it just wasn't the same for the break that I took of 2019.
How long was this break?
It was a good year, almost.
Wow.
Almost a good year.
Wow.
Even though I did one, I actually ended up just doing one,
but still,
job that I wanted to basically be a part of. But I was still in the loop of things, but it didn't really matter to me, because at the end of the day, I knew that even by disconnecting, that I knew when I was going to come back that I wasn't going to be really missing out on anything. And I think we're afraid, especially I think in this industry, we're afraid to step back because we're afraid to feel that we're going to miss out on this, event or the next, event, or we're going to miss out not getting that client. But then I don't think you were realizing that we're missing out on ourselves until you wake up one morning and you're like, wow, I just went on 20-year straight stretch on something. And what have I done for me? And so I think it's important to really have a check in with yourself and give that sort of self-love and self-care, because that only shines more later for not just your own personal life, but also the energy you put into your business and how you're putting it. So now I'm recognizing that everything around me is so fragile and so beautiful at the same time that I want to take things on in my life that really speak to my soul.
Can you tell me more about how that year went? I mean, what did you do?
Yeah. So along with my event planning business, I also have a restaurant. And I opened that up with my husband.
And this is in New York City or Brooklyn?
No, it's in the Hamptons,
it's in
actually.
The Hamptons? Okay.
It's in Bridgehampton. And so I fell into being now a restaurateur as well.
That's not easy.
No, it's not easy. There is a glamour to, having a restaurant, because it's all about amazing food that we're offering and the ambiance and again, going back to the connection of people and making people, really feel good when they're leaving. And we're doing all that and then some, which is fantastic. So I spent some time loving my restaurant again, because for the 2 years prior and trying to get that baby off the ground, I wasn't loving it, and I wasn't loving me as well. And so I took time to journal even more.
Yeah.
I took time to meditate.
I'm a proponent of that.
Yep. And now I'm a TM girl, which I love it.
Me too, right. Are you doing it twice a day?
I am doing it twice a day.
I do it once a day. I hear that if you go from once to twice, it's going from like 1 to 50.
Right.
And yeah, I got to do that. But
Andy, I'm only about 8 days in, because I had to do the 4-day course.
It takes months to kick in, right?
So I'm ready to take on whatever it is. So I'm happy that I'm even doing it twice a day and finding the time. I got to be in nature, because I'm fortunate to have, to run into the city to do my thing and to, reconnect with friends. And not that I don't have friends out in the Hamptons, because I do also live in the Hamptons. But I am so blessed to have the beach out there, the ocean. I'm blessed to have, just to be out in open, free, skies and watch the most amazing sunsets or sunrises that I absolutely love. I'm always chasing a sunset. And so being with yourself, just being alone time, because there was a time where I felt there was just too much chatter and noise around me. And I think it's important that we really listen to that the chatter and noise is good, is great when it needs to be great. But being alone is 100 times better. And finding out about yourself is even more rewarding. So I've done that. And I'm still doing it because it's not just a 1-year thing that you do and then you're like, okay, you're back to normal again.
If we're going to go further with this, what are some of the things you learned about yourself?
I know I've always been a strong individual, but vulnerability and allowing myself to just feel sad when I needed to feel sad because I lost my mom. That was also a reason why in 2018 was a rough year for me.
Yeah.
Finding out that the love for food has been really a huge component of me. And I knew it was even growing up or even in my process of, doing all these fabulous events. I've always been a big foodie and designer, obviously. But the love of food and the nourishing of what food can do for your soul.
Oh, I like how you're saying it, nourishing.
Yeah. The nourishing part was, I think, also a big aha moment for me.
Which is what you did for yourself with that year.
Right. Yeah. And I've been doing it actually for quite some time because I went through a personal health issue a couple of years back with Lyme disease.
Oh, geez.
And not to make this into a medical session because we're not going to.
No, but
it's
this is
part
relevant.
of my process.
Yeah, it slows you down. Lyme disease slows you down.
It did more than that. And so I think it's been a combination of when you sort of really look at your life and hitting the big 5-0. Yes, everyone, I said it.
I would never know.
I said it. Yeah. Yes. I hit it last year. So that was my turning point. I think even more so because it's now you're like, wow, you're not 40 anymore, Sofia. And even though I have a very young attitude and young thinking in so many ways, it was a big, big deal for me.
So what are some of the changes then that you've made as a consequence of this year that you took off? And, and now you're reconnecting, as you said earlier. What are some of the changes that you've made?
One of the changes, I wouldn't say changes, but one of the things I kind of re-looked again at was my vision board that I created 10 years ago.
Oh, in terms of like where you want to be and what it looks like literally.
And what it really looks and feels like.
Where you are, all of it.
All of it.
Yeah.
What I want and so on. So that to me, taking the time out of doing that, and that's not like a one-day thing, right? You don't just, create a little montage board because it's a physical board. It's not a digital one. I feel for it to be impactful, it has to be like a physical board that you've actually put things onto that board.
Yeah, it's tactile.
Yeah, exactly. And so I took a lot of time and it was a struggle. So making that sort of transition to look at the board that I had 10 years prior, because I didn't think it was 10 years ago. I thought it was like 5. And I was like, whoa, I wrote a check out to myself 10 years ago. And I got that in the bank, which was beautiful. And I was like, wow, I thought I did that 5 years ago, but it wasn't. It was 10. So re-looking at that and really digging deep and even having some of those challenging, struggling moments like, crap, where am I going? What do I want? Because I know I love this business, but I know I don't want to be in it for the next 20 years either, So I had to really go there. And so those changes opened me up to relook at my business and restructure it again, because sometimes we go through the restructuring. Some people just do it once and they think it's fine, and other people have to do it 4 or 5 times. So I've been in that restructuring mode since December, and it feels really good. And I think with my TM practice, believe it or not, in the last 8 days, I've seen a tremendous focus for me as far as what I really, want. And I'm not going to say it all because, I think there's some things you got to kind of keep private.
I was about to ask.
Well,
okay, I won't.
Yeah.
But I understand what you're saying, but it's helped you to really get clear.
Yeah, because I was stuck. And I'm not afraid to say it. I was stuck. And I think it's okay to be stuck because I think you have to feel, I think you have to go through that in life. You need to understand why you're going through it and you need to be aware of that. Otherwise, that hamster on that, pinwheel that just keeps running, and it won't stop.
Yeah.
And then you realize one day when you're so crashed and so like, in a hospital, God forbid, or whatever, that like, wow, I don't have time to fix this now because I should have fixed it 20 years ago or something. I don't want to be one of those people. So I like to look at myself and re-examine myself over and over and see what it is that speaks to me. And when it does and it feels right, then I go for it.
Well, where do you see yourself going in the next, let's say, 5 years, 10 years?
I stick with 5. I think 5 is a good, yeah. I think it's realistic. I think, look, I'm still going to continue doing my events because there's a part of me, even in my meditation process, maybe not with TM, but with other meditation processes that I've gone through, where I hear the inner voice like, don't give up yet. Don't give up. You're still meant to do this. And so I know I'm still meant to do this because if I'm going to go out, I'm going out with a big bang.
Yeah.
Like it's either go big or go home. So, or in my restaurant, we say go Greek or go home. So anyway, events are still going to be part of my process. A book. And it's going to be something around food and design and travel because those are the 3 things that really, really speak to me. I don't have a book agent yet. I had sort of played with one a couple years back and it was a great experience. And Rizzoli was very interested in me at the time, but they had said that I needed to get a commercial photographer to, shoot my photos a different way.
Books. Oh, really?
Right.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's okay. That was then. Now we're talking now. And I think traveling, a lot of travel, because I think that really feeds more of what I'm doing and the expansion of what I can be doing in my creative sort of field.
Well, also, I know that you've partnered with the Heritage Collection. Is that something recent? Can you tell me about that?
So they approached me about a year ago. And so it's almost a year. And I happened to be in Lake Como that year ago. And
I'm so sorry.
I know.
Lake Como.
I know.
Yeah.
And the owners were lovely, and they said we need some representation over in the States, and we really thought your brand aligns with ours, and so we'd love to have you sort of be, not sort of be, but be our U.S. ambassador to the Heritage Collection.
But what does that mean exactly? I want to be clear.
So what that means basically is anyone in the States, if they happen, to say, oh, I want to do a wedding at, Villa Babbiano.
You're the exclusive.
We could, we can bring them there and be the exclusive. Sadly, a lot of the dates haven't been opened.
Oh, no.
Babbiano is so desired, or, the Chateau in France. They're very, very busy properties. So we haven't had the opportunity just yet to do anything fabulous there. But I do plan on doing something very soon.
There's just one more topic I want to get into before we wrap up. About staying relevant. There's aspects of what you've been talking about that relates to that. But now this is a bit of a long quote, but I want to say it. I love it. You said, life is beautiful and we have choices. As this industry continues to grow, we need to keep evolving as well. Change is good and it helps us move forward to the next big thing. Everything in life is timing, and I know that it's important to feed and empower the relationships that I build over time because it will not just benefit that person, it will also benefit me. So I wonder, we're talking about, and I believe you said it, reinventing, evolving, empowering. Can you say something about that too? I
really am a huge believer about reinventing and sort of keeping up, and not necessarily keeping up with the Joneses, but keeping up with what really speaks to you. I'm a huge seeker, and I'm a huge person that has a lot of curiosity. Yeah. And so allowing for that even to sometimes come into your life and to just be curious about what does that mean and where am I going gets me excited. And I love sharing that even, and that's maybe where that empowerment sort of, segues to with my girls, whether it's my girls from my team or it's my girlfriends or even, my tightest friends that I've built relationships with, whether it's been in this industry or out. And honestly, for me, relationships are key because it's what keeps us going. It's what keeps us alive. We Greeks have a thing about being philotimo. And philotimo is really the power of giving our friendship, giving our self to another, and building relationships and staying sort of really close with them. And even if some might come in for a season, reason, or lifetime, they're all here to teach us something. And that's why I feel who you meet and why you meet them is because you're supposed to meet them. And so I look at all my relationships and I really treasure them. And they really have brought a lot to myself and to my life.
I love that. Well, gosh, Sofia, this has been wonderful. It's so exciting to reconnect with you.
Yeah, thank you. I know, Andy. Me too.
Yeah, so thank you for being on the show.
Thank you as well.
Thank you for listening to my conversation with Sofia Crokos. Be sure to check out her website at sofiacrokos.com. That's SOFIACROKOS.com. Her social media handles for Facebook and Instagram is Sofia Crokos Events. On Pinterest, it's Sofia Crokos Events and Lifestyle. Be sure to check out the show notes where you can get all of this at our website of theweddingbiz.com. And if you enjoyed it, please share it with your friends and colleagues and give a great review, because that really helps us wherever you get your podcast from to do that. It really makes a difference for us. And don't forget to listen to our follow-on segment with each interview. It comes out on Wednesdays called The Next Level, in which I have a guest co-host. And together we tease out some of the highlights of the interview and help break them down and deliver some specific tactics and advice to help you raise your own business to the next level. And this week's guest co-host is going to be Lewis Miller of Lewis Miller Design, floral designer based in New York City. And also want to thank one more time our sponsor, and that is Party Slate. You could find them at partyslate.com, and we'll catch you next week on The Wedding Biz.